Good evening and happy Mother's Day to everybody. This is Matt, and welcome to the Poke Check Podcast. This is episode 10. We've made it to double digits, and I'm really excited because, as everybody knows, hockey art is important to me, and it's really important to a lot of us in the collecting community. And I brought in two of my favorite hockey goalie artists, I'll even say, because some of you specialize in that. But happy to have Brad with me, and Brendan, my good friend from Instagram. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for the opportunity to come on and talk hockey, talk collecting, and really happy to be on here with you guys.
Yeah, thanks, Brad. How about you, Brendan? How are you doing today, man?
Yeah, doing great, thanks. It's a huge honor to be on here. I've enjoyed watching your other episodes, so it means a lot to have been invited on here, so thank you.
Absolutely. I think for me, the community is always the most important thing, and I really appreciate not only collectors, but artists who really enjoy being a part of that and facilitating that with their art and their collections. And I feel like both of you do a really good job of that. So I couldn't think of two better examples to bring on here to present to the people of Instagram and YouTube to get to learn a little bit more about your art and just, what motivates you, what it does for your collecting, and what it's done just for you getting the chance to meet other people. I think that's been something I've noticed that's been really cool. And so hopefully we can get to the bottom of that. But, Brendan, I'm going to start with you because we met last year, and, I got the chance to kind of learn a little bit about, you and why you do your art. But I want to kind of learn a little bit about like where did the idea of doing art, especially of hockey players, where did that come from? Where did that start for you?
So specifically hockey art or just art in general?
Yeah, well, let's say hockey, because I think, you can talk a little bit about the art, but I'm curious, what drew you to doing art of hockey players specifically?
Okay, absolutely. Yeah. Because art just in general has been something I've done my whole life, but hockey art isn't actually something that I've really started doing, honestly, since just a couple of years ago. I remember first doing hockey art, just a little bit of it back in like 2014, 2015. But I used to play hockey, and due to, of course, money and time, I unfortunately had to stop. And I think that honestly is probably one of the biggest reasons why I really started doing hockey art, is because after I stopped playing, there was a couple of years where, I was like, not that I didn't miss it, but it was a lot over many years. So it was a nice break, but then I really missed it a lot in 2018. Was when it really first came back. Like, I want to play it again, but unfortunately, I was getting older, hadn't played for a few years, so it's like that's unlikely. So, and I still around that time I had like reconnected with my passion of art, but especially drawing. And so I think it all just came together perfectly. I started really getting back into hockey around that time, and I also started getting really back into art. So it was like perfect, and it just kind of felt natural, just to combine two of my biggest hobbies, just hockey and drawing. And I think that's just what ended up causing me to pretty much carry everything since then. So
that's awesome. Brad, are you hearing any similarities in there? I mean, with the reason for specifically going into doing art of hockey players?
Yeah. I mean, not directly the same, but very similar in the sense it's a good way to connect with the sport outside of actually playing. Mm-hmm. So when I was growing up, when I was really young, like 3 or 4 years old, I was just obsessed with hockey. Like, you get your parents to read you stories when you're younger. I used to get my dad to, do you know the Paul Romanuk? Paul Romanuk books. It's basically just like pictures of the players and a little blurb and then their stats. I would get my dad to read me the stats. Be like, awesome. How many goals did Mario Lemieux have? I just thought that was the coolest thing. So I don't know. I just always really loved hockey. And when I was younger, I actually never had the opportunity to play. But I would watch Hockey Night in Canada every Saturday, and I started off with just a piece of Bristol board and some markers, and would just draw my favorite players. At the time, it was Marian Gaborik was a favorite of mine, and also Martin Brodeur. So that's how I really got to like actively connect with the game beyond just watching and listening. So that was kind of my introduction to it. In terms of where more I'm at now with the the more detailed paintings and graduating from Bristol board and markers, I actually started painting pretty seriously about 3.5 years ago, and it started out mostly on like just a commission basis for friends and family of dogs or whatever. And then I decided that I wanted to start making some stuff for myself, and the first thing that I thought to do, I was like, maybe I'll do a hockey player. And then so I did up Sebastian Aho. That's at my parents' house now because he's my guy right now. Carolina Hurricanes and Aho, that's my favorite. So it was a natural first choice. And yeah, I mean, I had a lot of fun doing it. And so, I mean, any painting for me is quite enjoyable. It's it's therapeutic, and it's something you can put a lot of time into, and you can get the gratification of seeing the result after. So find that very rewarding. And then when I do it with hockey, it's even it's a lot more fun too, because it's something that I'm really passionate about, been a lifelong fan. So it's it's a lot of fun to do, and it's great to be able to, like you said, meet other people in the community, because the collecting and the memorabilia world is so huge, and art's a big part of it. So it's great. It's a great thing to be a part of, for sure.
Yeah, I love hearing that both of you are exploring your biggest passions and putting that into your art. I mean, I feel like not being an artist myself, but just observing, I feel like anybody that's doing art and is passionate about art in general, whether it's painting or drawing or a combination of that, if you were just like you said, you like doing dogs, or if Brendan, if you drew like somebody's friend or whatever as a commission thing, it would be fun. But like really going for that deepest passion, you're just going to put that little bit extra love into your art, and really care about the detail and getting it right. So I think that's something that I like hearing, because I think as we are growing up, whether we're deciding what we're going to do with our lives, or we're going through a midlife crisis or a quarter life crisis or whatever, we want to decide to do something that's going to really explore our passions. And like me getting into collecting Fleury, I think that's really what that was, is I kind of rediscovered, like you both were talking about, looking at stats on the back of hockey cards. Man, I remember having 1990, 91 Upper Deck, and there being a bazillion players in there, it seemed like. But reading the stats, that's where my love of the game also came from. And then of course the goalies, like the pads and the masks, like that's the easiest thing to fall in love with, I think, if you're getting into hockey and you like art and design. So I think I've always had that love for art in general, just with the masks, let alone how they complemented their pads and everything. So hearing some similarities for sure.
Can I ask you a quick question on that note? Since
go ahead.
Passion for the goalies and the masks.
Yeah.
Who's got the #1 mask all time?
Oh man, you can't answer.
That's a tough question.
How about we just name a few? First one that comes to mind is, I gotta mention Jocelyn Thibault's wolf mask. I know everybody loves Stéphane Fizet and his brick mask. I totally get that, but for me, the way that Thibault's wolf mask complemented the blue Coho blocker and glove and pads, like that setup is still one of my favorites. So what about you, Brent? I know, obviously, I think people can tell, big Red Wings fan, so I'm curious if your answer is going to go that direction, but one of the best masks ever. What do you think?
I mean, I don't even think I could begin to answer that, to be honest. Like, that's just such a difficult, I mean, okay, I'm going to be a little biased here. Actually, not going the direction of the Red Wings, but as cheesy as it might sound, honestly, I really loved that 1819 Fleury Vegas mask. Just, I don't know. I don't know if it's just because it was one of the first drawings that I really, put a lot of time in for hockey, at least, or what. But I just love how that looked so much. It was so fun, I think, analyzing everything, because that's not something that I had done really beforehand. But to when you're drawing a mask, it really forces you to look at every little detail possible, and so you really notice all the things that make it so special. So,
right, that's a good choice. What about you, Brad? There had to have been one in mind when you asked that question. So,
I mean, there are a couple that come to mind for sure, and I don't know. It's pretty legendary. I don't want to say that it's just because I grew up in Toronto, but the Cujo mask was
Oh yeah.
the Cujo mask was really cool, and I also really liked the Belfour mask. I liked how he kept it the same. The Eddie the Eagle, the mask with when he came from Chicago and Dallas, he had the same mask, just changed the colorways, and it was they were both like really clean lines, really sharp looking masks. So I would say probably Cujo and Belfour would be my go-tos. Yeah.
Yeah, when you asked that, I had to give love to Tebow just because the way that it complemented everything. But if we're looking at just the mask, our first choice is St. Louis Blues Cujo, the first one with the teeth on it.
Yeah.
Just because of all the colors on that mask that also complement the wolf. My dad and I loved, and he was a big Belfour fan because of the mask as well. But he and I loved Cujo's first, wolf mask in St. Louis, and then of course. Mike's art right there of Cujo and the mask. I had to get a copy of that because that's an iconic. Look, there's a lot of good ones, man. I think if you look at eras too, you look at the early '90s, mid to late '90s, and then the 2000s, and then now. I mean, there's just so much art that's put in that. Do either of you follow some of the goalie mask artists on Instagram at all? Have you seen? There's a few of them. I know Griff. Griff is a big Flurry mask creator. He does all of Flurry's masks, but there's I'm going to forget some of them. Isn't that Dave something, right?
Dave Art, yeah.
Dave Art, yeah. He does the majority of all the goalies in the NHL. But there's some really fascinating artists with masks. I mean, that's a whole new, ball game. Do you think either of you would ever want to attempt something like that?
I would love the opportunity, but I think it's airbrush, right? It's usually airbrush.
Yeah.
I have I don't know. I have zero experience with that as of this point, so I wouldn't feel very confident to take that on tomorrow. But definitely. If I had the opportunity to experiment with different medium, would love the opportunity to do something like that for sure.
All right. What about you, Brendan? Have you ever thought of because you've drawn a lot of goalies, I mean, a couple that I particularly love and enjoy that are behind me, but in general, I mean, you've done a lot of that. Do you think you'd ever, if you had a picture of Fleury or whatever with a blank mask and just went for something, do you think that would ever be something you could try one day?
Yeah. It's definitely something I'd be lying if I said I'd never thought about doing it before. It's just one of those things where it's there's a lot of stuff you'd have to even get into it with. You have to have just all the airbrushing materials, the airbrush itself, all the paint. Mm-hmm. The masks themselves are pretty expensive too, just blank. Right. But yeah, I don't mean to go too far off, but you were just saying if I follow too many. But yeah, I know Bishop Design is a local guy who I like following. He was actually the guy who painted Nedeljkovic's mask, both in Carolina and now in Detroit. He got the classic beanie looking mask. Yep. So yeah, he was probably up there with, I think David Gunnarson's his name for Dave Art. Okay. So yeah, I love following them, seeing what they come up with. So
I mean, we're talking about midlife crises there for a minute. I know one of my big ones is I would love to learn how to play goalie. So if I do get a mask and have it painted, I need to collab with you guys, and we'll do a Fleury style mask. One half will be Brendan, the other half will be Brad, and you guys can just do whatever you want. And I'll throw it on, man.
Would love to.
That'd be awesome. Well, I'm really curious. I think it would be fun to kind of give you guys a chance to describe, if somebody were to come up to you and ask you, how would you describe your art? I would really like to hear just, how to kind of a newbie, a person who doesn't do the art themselves. Obviously, I know what your art is and how it's done in essence, what materials, but I think it would be really cool to hear both of you talk about how would you describe your art. Brad, I've got these pulled up, and then Brendan will come to you. I have a few of your examples up, so let me pull this up here. How would you kind of describe is it the medium? Is that the correct word?
So yeah, basically the medium is what you're painting on and what you're painting. Okay. What you're painting. Okay. So, for example, this is actually all my art right now is acrylic paint on canvas. So. Okay. The style that I go for, this is actually a progress picture. This isn't the final version. This was about probably, I'd say, 70% done. But I would describe my art right now. as try going for almost lifelike realism.
Okay.
With really an emphasis on also the really bright colors that come along with a lot of hockey logos, so it really pops. And then I also like doing just a flat black background because, once again, I think it really draws attention to the subject, in this case, Mr. Corolla Thrill. So I would say to describe my style would be really vibrant, colorful photorealism.
Awesome. No, that's the first thing that stood out to my father when I sent him Mr. Fleury in a picture here. He goes, Matt, that looks incredibly real. And I even noticed later on there's a like the facial hair you have on Mr. Matthews here. I noticed you did a little bit of playoff fuzz for Fleury. I didn't notice that before, but if I look closer, I was like, wait, did the paint fade or no? You actually got a little bit of his playoff fuzz in there. So I appreciate that level of realism.
Tried to for sure. That was kind of for myself, that was kind of a graduation point because I've been working at it for a little while, and to get to the level where I'm now trying to include facial hair, that's obviously a pretty intricate detail that I hadn't really been doing in my previous work. So to get to a point where I kind of, it's like, okay, let's get some facial in there, trying to get it that much closer towards the photorealism. So that was a big step for me in the artist world for sure.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I have another question for you after we come back. It's going to be about this part of the painting, because I know Brendan and I have had some good discussions about that. But how about yourself, Brendan? How would you describe? I'll pull up one of my favorite art pieces you've ever done. How would you describe your art to the YouTube world here?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I just gotta say for you, Brett, I got a ton of respect for what you do. I would say I do similar type or go for similar type things with photorealism, but I know using paint is like really difficult. As much as time it takes to draw realistic pictures, to paint them, like maybe it's just because I'm not used to it, but like it seems like it's so much more difficult to paint, especially when you get like with the small details, like with a pencil, you can just use a sharp pencil, but for paint, like it's really hard to control it sometimes. But yeah, that's a similar thing. And I think when he said about having a solid background to really emphasize the drawing itself, I think that's a really good point. That's definitely what I've gone for with my drawings too, because I feel like in the past I've drawn backgrounds behind them and I've tried different things like that, but I feel sometimes just doing that, it's almost, I've gotten more distracted on the background or focused too much my attention on things where I feel like the main, emphasis of the picture or of the drawing should be on the player itself. And I think that, it really, the more time you're able to, focus just on the player, the better it's going to be. And I think really drawing over time and constantly drawing the same type of things, the same, obviously not the same players over and over, but when you draw enough players, they have the same kind of helmets or mask and how they look. It really helps kind of refine small details that, as you go on and you add more drawings to the collection, there's really more details about specific things that you wouldn't have even really paid attention before that start to, like even just the shape of helmets is something that it's kind of funny, looking back at it, but it's like, I really know the shape of a hockey helmet now, but just on them over and over. So just simple stuff like that, I think is the parts that I'd like to think that I have gotten a lot better at over the course of my Instagram account, but just over the course of me drawing. So.
Right. Well, I mean, these are some of the earlier pieces that you did, and you did mention like the background, like doing something more like this.
Yeah.
I'm not going to show this for very long because it'll start making me sad.
Sorry about that.
No, it's a beautiful picture though. But you're talking about something like this, and then you've really focused in on, more of the. Oh, hey, I got to show this one too because Brad's here.
Nice.
Yeah.
I actually never saw that one before. I scrolled through a lot of it. That's awesome.
Thank you.
We were talking about doing an Aho because I really was a huge. I'm a big fan of him still, but like I really followed him strongly last year before I really made that switch to Fleury like full time, and I still love his game. I really do. I wish he and Fleury played on the same team because then I could really nerd out about both.
Yeah,
One thing I wanted to ask you both about. I mean, there's so many things I'm seeing between your art, but let's talk. Looking at the visors here, and I go back to the Patty Kane as well. You got this reflection here. Could you both speak about just like is that one of the toughest details to do? Because I would imagine like this would be one of the final stages of doing the art because it is the outermost layer technically with the reflection. So Brad, did you feel like especially doing this cane here, like is that a detail that is pretty challenging to do on a visor like this?
Not really as much as you might think because it is just the face drawn, and then it's more of a transparent reflective paint that I put over top. So
okay,
it's just a little bit of like white transparent reflective tape or paint with some yellow in there, and I just paint right over top. It's not like I draw to the edge of the face and then now I'm going to put in the visor. It's just over top. So it's actually not super difficult to add in that detail, and I think that is probably one of the advantages of using paint where there's different opacities or clearness, so you can you can add in those details over top. And I'm sure if you see even on your Fleury piece, like if you look at it at a different light, you'll see that there's certain parts of the side of the mask that would catch the light, and that's also using that transparent paint. So you can kind of paint over it. You don't really have to, like with I know with the pencil drawing, like for example with that Aho one, you had to stop the line at where the eye is, right? Like that's not, you can't go over it. So I mean, there's a little bit more precision, I think, in that instance with doing the crayons, the pencil crayon.
Now, is that true, Brendan? Do you find, I mean, because this is, I know I've really enjoyed your evolution of seeing how you've paid a lot more attention to the reflections, because I think it would be very easy, and I'm not saying that in a bad way, but it would be easier to not do much there, maybe do a little bit of light reflecting, but not to actually have something in the reflection. Have you found that's been really tricky to do, or do you feel like it's something that's coming more natural to you now?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because I don't remember exactly what it was. I think it was my Giovanni Smith drawing, which was it's down a little bit. It's just a regular pencil. It's right there at the bottom right.
Oh, bottom right. Okay.
Bottom right. Yeah, I think that might have been the first picture that I drew that I really tried a reflection in. In terms of how easy or challenging it is, I think when I first started doing them, it was like I didn't really even think that I was like doing reflection. I was just kind of drawing what I saw, and then I was like, I'm drawing a reflection. And when I first did it, it was pretty challenging. I think the more that I thought about it, the more I started freaking out about it, because it's like I'm doing like advanced stuff, which I really wasn't ever planning on getting to. But in terms of how challenging it is, it's one of those things where pretty much with most things in life, the more you do it, the easier, not necessarily easier, but more used to it you get. Okay. And yeah, so when I first started off, I was genuinely drawing more of like reflections of boards or stuff. But if you look at more recent stuff, I've tried to challenge myself a lot more with like players and stuff. And I'll admit, sometimes I go a little overboard with this. Sometimes I try and make the reflections a little too sharp or a little too prevalent. But all in all, it's just all about, I think it's just fun because it's another area of, I always look for areas to make art or my drawings look more realistic. Since I try to do photorealism, it's kind of one of the biggest things in terms of my priorities. But like, started off just with simple reflections, and I'm now trying to get to the point where I'm trying to do a little bit more with like even reflection on the helmet when it shows up. But again, finding that balance between too much and not enough is always something that I'm kind of working on right now. But yeah, so that's where, and also that's why I've been trying to draw more of modern players, because when I draw players, I love drawing the reflections. So obviously a lot more modern players have the visor, whereas the older players didn't. So
right,
or a helmet in some cases.
Yeah, that too.
That's interesting to hear you say that, because I think that's pretty similar to what I was saying about with adding in the facial hair, and you just get to it's 100% just just work and repetition. And I don't think before, when I was doing subjects that would, for example, have facial hair, I never even like noticed that it was there. It wasn't even like really like a choice, should I put it in or should I not? But just over time and doing more and more pieces, you start to notice more of the details, and then you're like, okay, we should try and get that in there somehow. So it's definitely agree with you. It's just, over time you just get more comfortable to be more exploratory with what you're going to put onto the piece, for sure.
I'm curious for both of you, and I like asking this question to a lot of people in different careers, just A, because I'm curious, but B, because I think it goes to show, like, no matter what, project or hobby you're undertaking, there's always going to be a hurdle that you have to get over. And then there's going to be another one and another one, depending on how advanced you're getting. But, for either of you that want to answer first, what has been one of the bigger challenges that you've been able to overcome that's really helped you, get to the point where you're at on your art? I mean, is it a detail with the helmet? Is it, like you mentioned, with the facial hair? Is it the wrinkles in the jersey? Like, what do you think it's been that's you've made a big gain in as your art's come along?
If you want to go first, Brendan, you can
sure. I'm trying to think, because obviously there's been plenty of things. I mean, something as simple as, if you look at like some of the older drawings, I did a lot of like sharp outlines. I don't know if that's one thing specific you're looking for, but like, see on that one, like especially on the left side of the jersey and along the arms, I really did an outline. Then I'd fill everything in. It was almost like a coloring book, in terms of how I would process it. And I think one of the more, like, honestly, it's made me feel a lot better in terms of how the process goes. But I've learned that if you're doing realism, the less sharp lines you have, of course, if they're in the picture, then you draw them sharp. But if you draw a sharp line, it makes it look more cartoony, versus if you like have an outline, but you kind of shade it versus just drawing a line, it makes it look more realistic. And that's something that I've kind of, this drawing, actually, it's cool that you have this one pulled up, because this is one of the first drawings that I really started trying to shade more than actually draw an outline for. And I think you can kind of see it more in the helmet, with how that one I was really still trying to get the hang of it down. But that was probably one of the biggest initial obstacles that I had, was finding, again, I think most of my obstacles that I have for myself are just finding the balance, finding the in between too much and not enough of anything. So
that's awesome. That's awesome to hear. What about you, Brad?
One of the biggest obstacles for me with painting, and it's just cleaning the brushes. Like, honestly, cleaning the brushes is such a pain. And before this isn't, I don't know, something I should necessarily advertise in terms of kindness to the planet, but I used to have the palettes and everything, and I just got so sick trying to wash and clean everything. So I just use paper plates now, and I throw them out. But I mean, like that, it's not necessarily specific to the art, but that was a huge obstacle, and I had to change it, because it was taking up too much of my time, and it was very frustrating. But in terms of the actual challenges of making the art, I think I don't know, I really haven't had anything that I would describe as necessarily a challenge. I think it's kind of just a constant journey towards progression and getting better. So maybe one of the challenges could be just sticking with it and continuing to try. It's not super difficult, once again, just because like we're touching on at the beginning, love to do it. So it's been easy in that aspect to keep going. There are definitely some bigger challenges when you are considering more of, like, the business aspect of it, and trying to get your work out there and market and sell and provide value to the buyers, which is a really big thing for me. So there's more challenges in that sense, I would say.
Yeah, I completely understand what you mean about the paintbrushes. I've done some painting in the past, and like it's a pain. Even just doing a small painting, it's like you have to wash out every single brush. You have to wash out the palette and stuff. And it's like, I just want to paint a small picture, not like even anything too much, and it still takes a long time. So
and so sometimes, depending on what I'm doing, it'll be like get my brush, paint, single line,
Yeah.
into the water. And now it's like, that small contribution that brush made to the final piece is going to take about 20 to 30 seconds to wash on its own, plus the 200 other brushes. So.
But I think that's good to hear for people to just see how much detail and work and time goes into your guys' pieces. I mean, that is something that I think can get lost a little bit because we're so focused on the end product, and something I think that's really cool that both of you, I know Brennan, you started doing that now. And I know Brad, you post the progression of these pieces. I think that I find that very fascinating, and because again, it's so easy to just be like, oh, cool, a nice piece. Can I get a copy of it from you? I think it's really cool to see the progression of how long it takes to put some of these things together. I mean, Brendan, you and I were talking, it takes you, 20 hours or so to get everything completely finished the way you want, depending on the level of detail, right? About 20 hours worth, 24 hours, a day's worth of work, right?
Yeah. Yep. Sometimes I would say like the shortest drawings were about 10 hours, and they can get up to 20 hours. Of course, when I do like the 16 by 20, those ones take like, I would guess 30 to 40 hours. But for my weekly, 11 by 14 that I've been doing, I would say an average of like 14 hours or so. Of course, goalies generally take more because there's more of the mask to draw. But yeah.
How much time do you put into like single sessions? Because I'm assuming you don't go 11 or 20 consecutive hours. What's like a good chunk of time to put into it in one sitting?
Yeah, I've pretty much been I generally work better when I do a lot at once because I'm a person who gets really sidetracked if I like trying to have I've done it before. I tried to get like 3 drawings done in a certain amount of time. It's like I get nothing done because I'm so focused on what I have to do. So I like to sit down. I mean, pretty much as much as possible without being insane. So maybe like 5 to 6 hours isn't like too uncommon. But pretty much every especially now that I'm done with the school semester, it's nice. I'll have a lot more time. But I've pretty much been getting home from school, doing homework, and then just drawing until I'm a huge night owl, so like 3 a.m. sometimes. And that's pretty much it. So it's not uncommon for 2 to 5 hours for average drawing time. So how about for you?
I'd say 5 to 6 hours is usually the average. That's like a good amount of time that you can get a reasonable amount of work done, and you can see the progression. And it's not too long that your wrist is cramping up or anything like that. So I'd say about 5 to 6 hours. Probably the longest one I've done. I have done some bigger paintings that are not hockey related, and actually had to. I live in a condo, so I actually had to go back to my parents' house to use their garage space. And I did do one session where it was basically sun up to sundown. So about 11 hours. It was in the summer. So yeah, that was definitely the longest, but it's good. Yeah. It was enjoyable. Just have some music on. It's a nice day outside and just paint away. Goes back once again to really just doing what you enjoy. Mm-hmm. And also like what you were mentioning earlier, Matt, about how it is kind of like when you see the final product, it is just like the tip of the iceberg. I think that applies to a lot of things. Anytime you see anyone doing something that's really impressive, like even you could take the guys that we're drawing, for example, like the hockey players. Yes, you see them in the NHL, you see them on the ice, like, oh, that's really cool. But it's like you didn't see all the 5 a.m. wake ups, 8-hour car rides to hockey, everything like that. So I think it's really important to appreciate whenever someone is good at something. It's usually not just God-given talent, right? Like there is a lot that's gone into it. So
definitely
be able to appreciate that, whether it's a musician, an athlete, or even someone who's just really excelling in their career. That's I don't know. I think it's good to appreciate all the work that's gone in to get them there.
You guys are absolutely right. And it's so easy to get that lost in transition because everybody is so much busier now that I feel like than they have ever been. There's so much going on. You're always, there's always something to do on your phone. There's always something to do with the family, whether your job is going home with you or not. So I think taking a step back and remembering that is super important. So I'm glad you reemphasized that. Well, we have to talk about goalie art before we move on to the other things, because I've got to know, and I feel like the answer is an easy yes, but let me start with this question here. Is it harder to do goalies than it is not to do goalies art-wise?
You want to take this one, Brad?
You guys.
I mean, I could go first. Yeah, I would honestly say just where I'm comfortable with what I'm comfortable doing, I always find doing the faces is the hardest part. And usually with the goalies, you get less face. Like, you obviously, like that face still took quite a bit of time because it's, you got to make sure that it looks like Fleury. But I don't know. I find that getting the details right in the face can take a really long time. So especially with, I guess it would depend on the mask as well. But this mask is kind of like Brendan was saying earlier. It's more cartoony, so you can kind of define those lines and then you can fill in from there. So I think in general, I would say goalies I find probably easier, but that would depend on the mask. There are some masks that have, that's a pretty detailed mask, but there's ones that would definitely have a lot more. So.
Well, and also because there's so much of the face that's not there being seen. So you're using a rigid object to cover the majority of the face, especially the hair and everything. So
yeah, mouths are really hard to do. Mouths are hard to do and do them right. So I mean, like, just in this picture, I mean, I was okay with the fact that it's mostly covered by the cage. For sure.
Yeah, and can I just ask this too before, and then Brendan, I've got many of your goalie pieces to show here, but what made you choose that particular mask and setup, or just that mask of Fleury? Because knowing all of his masks through the years, and Brendan's been able to do one of my favorites as well. What was it? Was it the cartoony aspect of the bricks and everything that made you go for that one?
Yeah, I had pretty much committed to doing. I decided first that I wanted to do Fleury, and then I went through, I don't know, probably 2,000 pictures just scrolling through to try and find one that I really liked. I actually had no idea that he had so many masks, even just in his time in Pittsburgh. He had a lot of different masks. So I was looking for something that kind of suited the Faces of the Game series that I was doing at that time. So, a little bit more up close face shot. And I just thought this was a good image that kind of captured what I was looking for. But it was, it was definitely a big part of the iceberg just to select the picture. So there wasn't anything in particular. It was just the pose, and in general, I felt, it captured him well, I think.
Yeah. For sure, and that was when that was the first year they went to the finals against the Red Wings. So that mask brings back a lot of mostly good memories. But again, out of all of his Pittsburgh masks, that one, he's had so many cool ones, especially his Winter Classic ones. Those are always really cool too. But I feel like that one out of all of them probably has the most personality to it. It does stand out the most to me too, because he started wearing that with the yellow pads, and then middle of the season transitioned away to the white pads when they got in the playoffs. So that mask definitely holds a special place in my heart. But thanks so much again for this piece, man. I love having that above the display case, and it's going to be a conversation starter many times when people see it. So
it's amazing.
Yeah, thanks. Incredible. I appreciate it. Well, it was a treat to do it, and to find you through this community and get in touch. It's been nice getting to know you as well. So I'm honored that you're going to be able to enjoy it for a lot of years.
Oh, dude, no joke. All the art that I've got from both of you guys, it brings me a lot of happiness, and but just the friendship that comes with it too, for sure.
For sure. Well, that's what it's all about. Going back to the happiness, I like to think about, art in general, paintings, anything that you have that is supposed to be visually appealing. It's like, it's just a little piece of happiness every day. Every time you get to look at it. And I know sometimes with art or anything, like, it's a good, immediately all the sticker price. Oh wow, that's like a lot. But when you average it out, like just a little piece of happiness this day, over a number of years, I think it's a pretty good use of money, in my opinion, just to get that little bit of happiness, for sure.
For sure. Well, and Brendan and I are in the unique place that we're both single, so we can throw this kind of art wherever we want. Brendan, when you have your own place, dude, you can put whatever you want wherever you want.
Yeah.
It's really sweet, man. So it's awesome to have it up. So thank
Good.
you. And then Brandon, where are you? Because Brad said the goalies were a little bit easier. I had to start with this one because this is your dude right here, Nadalkovich for the Red Wings. But looking through some of your goalie examples, I showed the Fleury already, but this is the Penguins one that he did for me, Brad. I don't know if you've seen this one yet.
Awesome. Really
Thanks.
We spent a lot of time finding the perfect photo, and it was so hard. I mean, but having this little detail of the frog with the Canadian or the leaf right here was important to me. But just looking at all the goalies that you've done, Brandon, do you feel like they're more enjoyable, they're tougher, easier? What do you think?
Yeah, so this is, I think, first of all, I completely understand and agree with you, Brad, in terms of finding pictures. I feel like I spend half of the time that I designate to drawing a player is just trying to find the best picture. Yeah, but in terms of the difficulty or the process, honestly, I feel like drawing players is easier, or I don't know if I'd say easier, but definitely faster for sure.
Okay.
I think one of the biggest things that I find when it comes to goalies is the fact that they just take a long time to draw. I would say, they add on an extra, sometimes 5 hours as to what a player would be. And I think the biggest reason is because, number one, is the cage itself. It's so difficult. Sometimes for me, that's probably when you said, roadblocks or challenges, that's probably something also that I've had to push through a little bit, but is forcing myself to make it symmetrical. It's really a challenge for me to be able to get the face to look recognizable and accurate and realistic to the actual player, while getting the cage to align on both sides and make sure I have every wire going the same way, so it's not like one side is coming from here and the other it's down here. And then in addition to that, just the actual, because I like to say that drawing a goalie is pretty much like drawing a picture in a picture, because when they have the mask, it's an art form in of itself in terms of the original artist painting the mask, and then I'm drawing the mask that has been painted, so it's kind of fun how that works. But yeah, so I think the process is definitely a lot more challenging for me drawing players or goalies than skaters, but I'm generally more happy with the end result of goalies, just because it's like, I think all the time put into drawing it makes it that much more worth it, and just a satisfying result, I think, is how I'd say it.
Awesome. Are you hearing any similarities there, Brad?
No, I mean, yeah, for sure. I never thought about it that way, the picture within a picture, but it's very true. It's very true, because it is a little bit like recreating artwork within your own artwork, for sure. But that's cool. That's a good way to look at it. That Nadalkovich piece is awesome, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I knew I had
really well done. Because that's that mask it's matte paint, isn't it?
Yeah. Yep. It's not a glossy one.
And yeah, I mean, I don't know how you even managed to make it look matte. Also with pencil crayon recreation, that's awesome. Like, you could tell that it's a matte finish on the paint through your pencil crayons. That's awesome. Really well done.
Thank you so much.
That's really cool, man. Again, it's neat to hear artists that are using two different materials, completely different, and be able to appreciate each other. I mean, I think that's art in itself. It can be appreciated no matter what kind that you're doing. So yeah, that's awesome. And I did want to show this picture of Caden Fulcher, because one aspect that's really neat about hockey, and I was going to ask Brad if you've had this happen yet, but Brendan, you're able to interact with some players, and you've even had some players sign your pieces, correct?
Yeah, I have a whole box of signed drawings over here. So
that's so cool,
awesome,
man. And Brad, have you had that chance? Have you obviously, I know some of the players you've done are these superstar athletes and whatnot, and I really wish this was here before the Fleury interview about the collection, because he would have probably. I'm going to definitely send it to him. And show them after the playoffs are done. But have you had the chance to interact with any players yet, or is that like the next step? Like, it'd be awesome to get a piece signed by somebody.
Yeah, I mean that would obviously be a dream scenario. I don't think I'm going to get a response from Ovechkin to the email that I sent him about 4 months ago. So,
Okay. So you have
um,
tried to reach out then. That's good.
I have tried to reach out, but no, not like you said. They're the guys that I've done so far are pretty up there. So,
Yeah. Best
I
of luck
want
at
to
hearing something back.
yeah. Thanks. I'm sure I'm one of thousands who are trying to get their ear at any moment. So I'm not. I don't know.
I just want to make sure I share the finished product. I apologize for pulling up the earlier one, but I just wanted
Oh,
to
no,
show
that's fine.
everybody the finished product. Man, that's those shots of our favorite players hoisting the cup. The Red Wings have plenty of those pictures. You know, Fleury's got his. There's Ovechkin. Hopefully, Aho will have a picture raising the cup here in the near future after Fleury
I'm
retires.
hoping
But
so. I'm hoping
yeah,
so.
that's awesome. Very cool. Well, I know there's probably so much more that we could spend time talking about. I know that Brad, you have about an hour total, so we got a little bit of time left. But I guess my next question for you guys to end on the art side of things before we talk a little bit about cards is, Brad, where do you want to see, like, what are your goals for your art moving forward, just even for the rest of this year? Do you have any pieces planned? Do you have, like, are you going a different direction, or are you sticking with this the portraits, the player, like the more portrait style pictures for a bit?
Yeah. So I did finish up that the fifth faces of the game, I was calling it. I did really enjoy doing those, but at the same time, I had a lot of fun doing that Ovechkin cup painting, and even just painting the Stanley Cup. It's a different challenge as well with doing trying to get the reflection just right, and I think
Yeah.
that was a lot of fun. And even you just mentioned, which is actually I hadn't fully decided, but you just mentioning seeing our favorite players with the cup and how cool that is. I think that's pushing me more towards continuing on and doing. I was thinking about doing a Crosby one.
Nice.
There's just so many iconic photos of different players lifting the cup. So I think I might do a couple more of those. But
Okay.
yeah, I do have the intention of continuing on with the hockey for now, but
Okay.
yeah, nothing too specific. Just always try and get better where I can and keep working at it, and keep on making stuff that hopefully people like yourself can enjoy for a long time. I think that's kind of always the main goal. It's the most rewarding part of it for me is having someone get something that you've made and really appreciate it and really enjoy it. So that's kind of the main goal. It doesn't really matter what I'm working on. That's what's the most rewarding part. So
Awesome. Well, you won't have any problem finding some really passionate Crosby fans that will want that, especially if you finish it up and the Penguins go to the Cup or something. I mean, that will be you will have no problem finding an owner, let alone name your price. And that will be hopefully a really rewarding picture to do. And
for sure.
yeah, if I ever come into a great deal of money and I want to buy a piece of art, the choice will definitely be Fleury, because if he doesn't win another cup, him holding the cup in that first for the first one. Sorry, Brendan.
No, that's all right.
You guys got yours before, but
Yeah.
that's just that's a beautiful picture, and that would be amazing to see
Sure.
one day. But awesome. Well, good. Well, I'm glad you're going to keep the hockey side of things going, and I look forward to following that. What about you, Brendan? What are you looking forward to the rest of this year, art wise?
I think the way I've pretty much gone, because my goal ever since I started really posting regularly on my Instagram. When was that? Like October 21. I've been trying to do one drawing a week, and it's been a challenge at times, especially with work and school combined. But I found a way to make it work, and I think that sometimes I just go week by week. Sometimes I don't have a plan of who I'm going to be drawing. Sometimes I'll get requests, or I'll get when, especially like Getzlav and when players like last year, Lundqvist, when players retire, I kind of add them to the list. Like, okay, I got to draw them to commemorate them. But I think just pretty much keep doing what I'm doing in terms of one a week, and just drawing, a combination of, I like drawing a combination, not to go on too much, but of, big name players that everyone recognizes. I also like drawing, lesser known or, prospects. And I think that sometimes drawing, those kind of players is also really fun, because then you're able to get interactions with them. When you draw the biggest name, there's pretty much, you and everyone else trying to get their attention. But, so it's special when it's yeah. And also I just want to say that OV painting was amazing. Like seeing that one that Matt first pulled up, like I thought that was the finished product, and then I was like, there's no way it could get better, because you said it was not, it was 70% done. I'm just like, wow.
Oh, thanks, man. It was a lot of work, but it was I was happy with how it turned out, and I think the guy who owns it now is happy with it. So that's the good thing. Hopefully, like Matt was saying, it'll be a good talking piece. So
absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, obviously Brad knows which painting is my favorite of his. So I think my second favorite though, and that's just because of the colors, the vibrancy of it, the Kaprizov, the way that you got the logo in there with the painting. I think most of the wild head there, I think that was super cool, because that red really stands out, along with the green, and then the 20th anniversary. I think that's got to be my second favorite, also because I just love watching that guy score goals when Fleury's in net, especially. It makes me so happy. He's so good. He's so good. I remember seeing him last year, and thankfully Fleury was on his A game, and they won that series in 7 games. He was doing stuff out there. I mean, he just had that extra it, that the Crosby, the Yzerman, the Fedorov, the seeing Crosby in person, I'll never forget it. He was faster than everybody. I mean, these are the best athletes in the world out there, and he was faster than everyone. I couldn't believe it. So anyway, definitely got to say that. And then of course, Brendan, we've talked a lot. I got to say the Lundqvist and the Shesterkin, I really like those a lot. Just the blues and the reds, like really dark colors. And also the Lundqvist, because of the Rangers, actually on their Instagram page retweeted his Lundqvist drawing. I thought that was really cool.
Nice.
That was really neat to see, really, because you guys are so talented, and it'll go unnoticed by a lot of people, unfortunately. I think it has to get to the right people somehow, you know what I mean? And who knows, maybe all these teams have seen your guys' art, but they forget to post it, or don't think it's great, or don't have the time or whatever. But I think it's awesome to try to facilitate that, because I think there's a lot of credit being given to, I don't want to say less talented, but topics that don't need to be getting talked about as much. And art is something that everybody can appreciate, whether you like hockey or not. So yeah, those are some of my favorites for sure. Well, cool. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing how you guys continue the rest of this year and beyond. And that'll be really cool. Well, I think part of hockey too is the collecting side of things. It's nice to know that both of you like hockey cards too. And it was great because Brad goes, look, I can take money for it, or you can send me all these young guns you have. And I'm like, really? I'm like, yeah, let's do it, man. And so real quick, I know we got a few minutes left here. Brad, have you been collecting, like Brennan and I talked about since we were kids, but like, have you been, when your dad was reading you stats, were you also collecting back then too?
Yeah. I did start getting the hockey card collection going probably around 5 or 6 years old. I did take some time away from it, but I do have a pretty interesting story actually about collecting, and it kind of ties into getting the attention of the athlete or whoever it is that you're a fan of. So when I was younger, I already mentioned big Gabrick fan, and I think I was in grade 3, and I had drawn him a little picture and then wrote a little note and sent him a couple cards in the mail, and with the self-addressed envelope, hoping that he would sign them and send them back to me. And at the time, I was living really close to my elementary school, so the day after I mailed it away, I would run home at lunch every day, check the mailbox. For probably about 4 weeks, I did that, and then I was like, okay, forget about it. And then totally forgot that I even sent that. And then 6 years later, I was in high school now. And I was a little bit farther walk to school, and I came home one day and just put my hand in the mailbox and I look, and it's my little grade 3 handwriting, my self-addressed envelope, and I was like, no way. It's like, I don't know. I hope they didn't do any type of estimates on the delivery date for that, because it would have been way off. But I thought that was really cool that 6 years later it still found its way back to me. So I got the 2 cards back signed, and really like those, because obviously the story behind it, I think, is pretty cool. But
that's amazing, dude. That's so cool to hear. And I hope that it was just one of those deals where he had his fan mail and he still got to it after all those years. That says a lot. I feel like hockey players, I think we all agree, hockey players are just a little bit more personable that way. I mean, it's easy for me to say, I guess, but Brendan, you've had the chance to interact with a lot of them, and Brad, that story, I think while they're professional athletes, there's a little more personality. Like they're more excited to interact with fans, I think, more willing to do so. And they also can probably walk down the street and not be recognized, as opposed to basketball and football and baseball players even that don't, they're so well known, but I feel like the hockey players appreciate taking the time for fans in those interactions. So that's really cool. How about yourself, Brendan? Have you been a collector your whole life practically?
Yeah. And I don't mean to go off track, but I just have a story that I think you would really appreciate, Matt. And I completely understand with you, Brad, about doing the through the mail autographs. So my dad had sent one to Fleury, actually, like a while, like I don't know how many years ago, but back when like he was early with the Penguins still. And after he had moved, got picked up by the Golden Knights, I think it was the inaugural season, he actually got the card back signed from him. So I just thought you'd probably like that. So yeah, I don't know how many years that was, but it was a long time. But
that's so awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of collecting, I took kind of a similar path that you described, Brad, in terms of I was a huge collector when I was little, and there was just a point in time where I think it was similar to how I said I stopped drawing around a certain time. I stopped collecting at that same time, and wasn't because I didn't like it anymore, but I think just because I had been doing it for so many years, and I was just kind of like, looking to get into other things. But around 2019, I really got back into it again. So again, pretty much when I stopped drawing, I stopped collecting. When I started drawing again, I started collecting again. And it's kind of cool how that all, came around. And I just think that, again, that collecting is just as big a part of me as drawing. Maybe not quite as much, but it still is a huge part of me, because it's like any way I can get, close to the game of hockey, it's like I'm all for it, whether it's playing it or drawing it or collecting it. So
that's awesome to hear. No, I agree with you guys. It helps me be more, probably not too attached, but a little bit extra attached to the game. So when Fleury's doing really well, and the cards are even cooler, and when he's struggling or his team's struggling, it's kind of like, well, that just shows you how much all of us care. So I think it's a good thing. I have 2 questions regarding your collections. The first one's a really solid question. The second one is pretty ridiculously funny. So I'll definitely end with that. But Brad, favorite card in your collection? One of them. Go.
Favorite card right now, it's nothing that's jaw dropping at all, but I love it. It's from the black series, the purple obsidian. I don't know, it's a Sebastian Aho purple obsidian patch out at 25, and it's just, I don't know. Probably I've never seen a card in person that has just been like, whoa, but it just looks really nice. The purple and the black look really good together.
You sent me a photo of that. Let me pull that up here. I'm pretty sure you sent me a picture of it.
I think I did. I usually try and send it to people whenever I have an excuse to. So.
Well, it's not here.
I'm sure in our conversation I definitely tried.
Maybe you told me about it. I don't see it here on Facebook, unfortunately. But if I did, I would have shown it. But yeah, no, that's
I can grab it quick.
Okay. Well, I mean, I do have to show this right here. This is something Brad sent to Brendan. This is his Aho cards. Oh, it's in this picture too. I think. Check that out. That's pretty cool, man. And I love all the lure, but is it this one right back in there? Yep. Oh, there it is. Okay, let me go full screen for Brad. There you go.
Play properly. But
Yeah,
I mean, it just the pictures don't do it justice. But in person, it's a really sleek looking card.
That's such a sweet set too.
Yeah. I really like all the obsidian, just the acetate layer on top. It just adds a lot to it. Really,
I just love how much details they add to the cards. It's like it's not just the picture. I know what you mean. It's like, especially when you get cards online, it's like that looks pretty cool, and then you actually arrives in person. It's like, oh, wow, if I would have known, it looked like that, like I would have gotten more. So
yeah, for sure. Same with drawings and
yeah,
I think too.
Yeah,
everything looks better in person.
Yeah, no, and you guys must have an extra appreciation for cards and the art and the design of them. I mean, I know that's something I've really taken a deep dive into and helping me appreciate my collection more is just the level of detail that some of the cards have. I mean, those Fanimation cards, I think those are super cool because the artists created them and then they became cards. I think stuff like that. Now that I'm into art as much as I am, it's a little bit extra cool for me. And that's why I paid as much as I did for the Flurry. It probably was too much, but I love that card. So I had to do it.
Yeah.
How about you, Brennan? I mean, I probably so tough to choose one just like for Brad, but you got one that stands out as a favorite card?
Well, I mean, I always like to keep 3 of them. Is that all right if I just real quick show 3
of
them?
Yeah, go. Let's see it, dude. Go for it.
So first one, this one's probably not going to be too much to just a normal person looking at it, but it's an Andy Green. It's got a dual game used, not a patch, but like a what is it called? A
Prime jersey.
Yeah, and it's numbered 550. You see on the top. And then funny story behind it, real quick. He's from Trenton, Michigan, so he's a local guy. So that's why I'm a big fan of him. Been a big fan of the Devils while he's been on there, and the Islanders while he's here now. Nice. And it was his summer camp, and so I was able to get this signed and meet him during that. Cool. So I got this for my birthday too. So I was like, that's perfect timing because it was in first week of August. So I was like, I'll do that. The next, actually, I don't know if this can really even be counted as a card. I actually drew a Young Guns card of Mort Sider and sent it to Grand Rapids, and he signed it. So that's a big part of my collection. And
you definitely got to get yourself a copy of the real Young Guns as well to kind of go with it. That's going to be so fun.
Yeah, and then last one, definitely the most expensive card in my collection, but it's a David Passernack Psa 10. You can see that Young Guns. Wow, funny story behind that one too. I actually got that one from like a blaster box, like a $20 blaster box, and must have been 14-15. And I didn't even know I had it. It was when I looked back at my collection when I got back into collecting again in 2019. I saw that in my shoebox where I kept all my cards. It was just not even in a sleeve or anything. And I was just like, isn't this guy good? Because that was when I started getting to the game. So I was like, I've heard of this guy. Isn't he good? I looked it up, and it was like a couple $100. I'm like, I need to put this in like a top loader immediately. Wow. And I can't believe it got a 10 because I was like, there have been cards that I like have taken way more care of and are nowhere near a good condition. But so that's probably cool. Yeah, I don't know if I could say or rate any of them in order, but that's why I said all 3 are my favorites. So
that's cool. No, that's awesome. I like hearing about that. My funny question for both of you.
Wait, sorry, you got what's your favorite? What's your favorite?
Oh
yeah.
Oh man, sentimentally, it's the. I guess I'd have to pull up a picture of it because it's a ways back, but I'll find a picture of it. It's the canvas autograph of him face like head on, big huge smile. It's signed in red ink. That was my first like big Flurry purchase that I made when I hadn't even decided like, okay, this is the guy I'm going to collect, but I just felt like that card, it really shows what's so amazing about him because he's always enjoying the game. He always loves to play, like makes a big save and cracks a huge smile afterwards. Me trying to find this card in a timely fashion is going to be really funny because I bet I won't now that I'm under pressure to find it. It's like when you're teaching a lesson in class and you need that extra, visual on the whiteboard and you can't find the darn thing.
Yeah.
But it was.
I gotta say, I love your flower in the desert one. That's probably my favorite one that you have.
That was a fun one to buy.
Yeah, and the whole story behind it about making a song about it too. Everything is just. I think that whole just how much more it means to you just makes it that much better. Like. And that's, I think, the best part about collecting is that you can pretty much have any card be your favorite. It doesn't have to be the most expensive. Doesn't have to be, the most sought after. If it means something to you personally, then that could be most valuable to yourself. So,
yeah.
But go ahead, Brad.
No, I agree with you. Just even in watching, how people navigate themselves through the hockey card collecting world, it's very clear that everyone has very unique definitions of what is valuable to them. Even beyond any monetary value. Like for example, I mean, it is expensive, I guess, but the Phil Kessel with the hot dogs and the cup card.
Oh, the day with the cup.
Yeah, that's hilarious. That gets the people going. And I mean, you wouldn't. I don't know. That's just. I think that's a good example of something that's a little bit more unique.
Yeah, but think about drawing that card.
Yeah, you should.
That'd be a fun one. Well, I don't have the picture of the flurry, but I do have to show this card. My dad does watch this, and this was one of my first. I need to get a copy of this graded as a 10, but this was one of the first cards that I think the first goalie card that I ever loved was this card right here of John Casey. And you think about how the art kind of plays into it too. I mean, look at the way his pads and the glove and the mask and the jersey, like everything complements itself here. And I really loved that he was one of the first to really go, instead of like going black or white, he really got into the coloration of the blocker and the glove and everything with this setup. And so that card right there really sticks out to me as like the beginning of my love for collecting goalies and wanting to be one as a kid, because I loved how everything looked all together. So that's probably my favorite old time card for sure.
Yeah. And on top of that, sorry.
Go ahead.
All right. Yeah, I was just saying that on top of that, I just think it's so cool how that picture or that card is designed too, how it has the big open square and lets you see the whole goal, pads and helmet and everything. And I just think that's really cool.
Yeah, Burdette did it well in 1990-91. Getting that set started, that got him off on the right foot for hockey, let me tell you. The hologram cards and all that other stuff. And yeah, a lot of good memories of that. Well, my funny question is, and it applies to both of you, so I'll change it a bit for you, Brendan. But Brad, I know you mentioned you live with your girlfriend there. What does she think? Not of the art, because I'm sure women want us to pursue our hobbies. That's great as long as they're not too expensive. But card wise, what does she think about the collection? Because I always love hearing this from different people about like, oh yeah, they don't like it and I just hide it or whatever. But where does she fall in line with your passion for cards?
She lets me display them, and
cool.
she's very supportive in everything I do. I'm very blessed in that sense.
Awesome.
But let's just say if I wasn't living here, the cards would not be on display.
All right. So you're enjoying the temporary beautifulness of it all being displayed, and you change later.
Yeah. I mean, there's something that I enjoy. There's something that she does not care for. So, right. But she lets me display them and doesn't really give me a hard time about them or anything. So, well, like most things, she's pretty good.
Nice. And does she enjoy looking at the art too and watching you kind of go through that process, or is it more of like, oh, that looks nice, and that's the extent of it?
Yeah, that's where most of the support comes from. Definitely, she's great. She's encouraged me to do it as much as I want, and she tolerates my mess, all the paint everywhere, and all that stuff. So yeah, awesome. Very, very lucky to have that support for sure.
Very cool. Very cool. Now, Brennan, your family, are they? I mean, you and I have talked off camera about this a little bit, but has your family been really supportive not only of the art but of the collecting as well? Do you feel like there's a lot of support for those two things?
Yeah, absolutely. I honestly, I mean, I know it's pretty cliche to say, but like I couldn't have been blessed with a better family. Pretty much. Everything that I've been interested in, obviously within reason. I'm not going to go out and be able to spend all my money on cards or whatever. But yeah, I mean my mom not really, but my dad and brother are also pretty big collectors. Especially my brother of football cards, but my dad pretty much collects any kind of cards. So I think by that sense, like it's pretty normal for our family. And in terms of my art, they've always been great with it. Whether it's been, helping me get ideas of who to draw or get, feedback or just any kind of thing that I needed help with, or, sometimes even, going to get, help me get supplies, that kind of stuff, just basic stuff like that you wouldn't really think about, but goes a long way. And then I have to mention it since I'm wearing it. I got for Christmas, I don't know if you saw when I put that up, but I got a BS Sketchers shirt.
That's so cool.
Yeah, because all the information on the back of it is just stuff like that. I was completely blown away when I got that. I was not expecting that whatsoever. It was honestly, it's one of my favorite gifts just because of that. It's just such a meaningful gift that, that pretty much just goes to explain how supportive they've been. So,
right. Well, I think behind every good artist is a good support system. You'd like to think somehow, whether it was kind of given to them, that love of art as a kid from their family, or whether it's friends or, kids or whatever. I think I like to hear, that it's you guys are, supported well, and also probably that support keeps you doing it, and enjoying it and loving it.
Yeah,
so,
and I can't go without saying, of course, help and support from you guys too. Been huge, and
For sure.
I'm forever grateful, especially, I don't know if you want to talk more about this in a bit about, starting everything, but just how, you've been great, Matt, about really getting me into the whole hockey community, and with you, Brad, for expanding the horizon in terms of the mediums and stuff, and seeing more hockey art, and especially with paintings, and that's been a huge eye opener. Just see, it's not just color pencil drawings or whatever, but seeing the paintings you're able to do is unreal, and it's really inspiring to see how much further I can try and get my drawings to look. So.
Yeah, I mean, likewise to you, man. I loved looking at your drawings. Actually, you're not wrong, Matt. Matt is he's a great advocate, because the very first conversation I ever had with him, first thing he did was point me in your direction. He said, "Oh, cool, you do art. You should check out Brendan. He's a really solid artist. Does a great job." I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." And looked through all your stuff, sent you a message, and here we are doing a podcast.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, both of you.
No, Matt. Thanks to you, Matt, for all your efforts in connecting with and growing the community. It's awesome. It's there's a lot of really good people in the community that's of just hockey hobby in general. You're definitely one of them. So thanks for having me on here tonight. I gotta jump off here in a moment, but it was really nice getting to talk to both you guys. And,
thanks, Brad.
Yeah, looking forward to following along with the art, Brendan, and I'm sure we'll all be chatting as our teams try and work their way through the playoffs here. And
yeah, man.
Yeah, it's been a treat. It's been really nice talking to you guys.
Thank you, Brad. Thanks for coming on and taking the time. And then, Brad, before you bounce, Brendan, you and I will chat for a few more minutes. But, Brad, can you just tell people where can they connect with you if they want to talk to you about doing some art, or just tell you that they love what you're doing?
Yeah, for sure. Through my Instagram, Brad Fenwick Art, obviously up there. Also on Twitter, it's just Brad_Fenwick. I don't have a Facebook page really right now. And I'm also actually partnering up with a different company. It's called Deal Dash, and they're going to be hosting, not necessarily hockey based, but it can be hockey commission sales for me. So
awesome.
That's Deal Dash. Yeah.
Deal Dash. Got it.
Yeah.
Well, when my website is done, I do want to feature a couple of artists on there, the people obviously that I have in my room and out there. So once I get that finished up, I would love to talk to you about getting that set up. So yeah,
awesome.
It'll be fun.
Once again, it's been an honor to be on episode number 10.
That's right, man. Hopefully we'll have you back on again sometime.
Looking forward to bragging about being on one of the early episodes when this is a big thing. So appreciate your time, both you guys.
Yep.
Yeah, nice meeting you, Brad.
Okay. Yeah,
all
take
right,
care.
Nice meeting you, man. Yeah, see ya.
ya.
Awesome. That was really good. I'm glad that you guys had a chance to meet, and again, it'd be fun to do if I ever get a mask and I'm able to send it to you and then send it up to him and you guys can collab on it. that would be because that would probably be one of the more meaningful things that I could do if I was ever going to learn how to play goalie, even if I never became that good. Having a mask that has personality and connection on it would be cool. So we'll talk about that later one day, hopefully.
Yeah.
But I was going to continue with this. We've talked about the community, Brendan. Like what has the community meant to you, and how has that been? Especially on Instagram, because if you can help remind me, when we first connected with the Flurry, well, I saw the Osgood piece, obviously, and then we connected and we chatted. Where have you gone from, like, follower-wise, from that point to now? I mean, I feel like you must have gained a couple thousand, maybe more, a few thousand people. Like, yeah, just kind of summarize your experience with the community the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's been unreal. I don't want to sound like I'm just saying this because I'm on here, but I would honestly attribute you to being like my main reason that I've had any success that I have on Instagram or in the community, just because honestly, I remember, I think it was the first or second episode of the podcast, but you were saying that, that going on to Instagram to share stuff, it's great and all, but it doesn't really ultimately mean a whole lot if you don't have community you're in to share it with.
Right.
And that's kind of how I originally started Instagram. I really started it, again, in the fall of 2021, of 2020. And when I first started, I was pretty much just posting my art and expecting, people to, to like it or whatever. And I didn't really have, the like original ideas or thoughts of going into it to join the community. I just kind of, wanted to showcase art, but it wasn't really until, you and a few other people have really just pretty much brought me in and just introduced me to this community. And, I'm going to be forever grateful for that, because that's what's really, truly brought me to. And it's honestly one of the best communities. It's like, I've never really had any kind of negative, involvement or anything like that. Like, everyone's always been really positive, whether it's in terms of giving advice or just talking to. I never really thought about, again, when I started my account, I never thought that I would, be meeting friends through Instagram and just talking about, not even necessarily just art, but just life in general. And, the fact that that's something that's come from, originally just posting drawings online to actually meeting people and talking about life topics and things. It's something that has all come together just because of people like you. So.
Oh, thank you. No, I agree. I think it's super important. I emphasize that on here a lot because I think the liking of the photos and kind of making your way through there and sharing the wonderful collections that everybody does. I mean, I love seeing how unique so many of them are, and seeing player collections and artists that do very specific art, or whether it's the style of the art or the type of player that they're doing or whatever. I just love the uniqueness. But I think taking it a step further is where you can really get something out of it, something that means something to us, and having those meaningful connections is the most important thing. And it's kind of interesting, Brendan. I've always been a fan of artists, whether it's with paint or or drawing or whatever, or music, that are more kind of not well known. And I don't say that as saying that they're not good, but I'm just saying they're not exposed to like the greater audience. Now, for instance, Mike, he does these 5 pieces up here above my head. I mean, he's phenomenal. I love Mike, but so many people know Mike already. And not that I wouldn't love to chat with them about art like you guys someday, but enough people know about him that if he does a piece, he's going to get exposure. People are going to share it and do all these things. That's great. But meeting artists who are new and inspiring to be better and do all these wonderful pieces. I mean, I'd argue if you look behind me, I don't know if Mike's are going to be the first ones that stand out to some people, although yours are kind of like hidden within the shelves somewhere. But I think it's really important to help new artists kind of get that exposure. And then, my father being a musician who's not as well known, I think you have to really put effort to get their names out there. And so, not only that, you're a really good person. And I think those are the people I gravitate towards, where I can have those meaningful interactions. And so I'm just sharing all this because I think anybody that listens to this, I hope that you kind of take that seriously. Obviously you're not going to message every single account at all. You're not going to be able to. But I think when you try to find a group of people that really help enhance your experience on Instagram, whether it's collectors or artists or just people in general. So it's been really cool, man. It's been really fun to see your journey and see it continuing to grow and watch your skill develop. And that's why it was important for me to bring Brad on, he spent, much more time up to this point doing art. I can't wait to see where you're going to be by that point in your life. I mean, who knows if you're going to be doing hockey still or something much, much bigger, but it's been really fun to follow so far. And I'm really happy to have some of these pieces in here, man. They're really, really unique. And I'm also really happy that Marc-Andre saw them, that they did it. They put it in segments. That was just like, Caden being able to see the art that you did of him. And what was his reaction like, by the way, when like you talk about, how do you say it? Casimir Cascasio?
Oh, Cascasuo. Yeah.
Cascasuo. Like, can you talk a little bit about like what the reactions have been like of the guys that have seen your art?
Yeah. Again, just as the rest of the community, just extremely positive. I think it's almost kind of surreal in a sense when you think about it. Cause like, I think I've been so used to, up until that point, really just drawing, the best known players, already in the NHL and been there for a while. And I think really going and starting to draw, the younger players or the prospects or whether it's ECHL, AHL, that kind of stuff, the players who generally see stuff more, I think it's just been a huge change. It's, drawing the same, posting is the same, everything's the same, except instead of, being able to post and you're pretty much posting it for just everyone to see and comment on, you're now posting it and the player you're drawing is seeing it. And that to me is like insane because, seeing the feedback, and especially with Cascasuo and Fulcher and Saginaw Spirit, the one goalie you pulled up, Andrew Oak and Luke McNamara also on the Spirit, them like sharing it on their stories and stuff, that again was pretty awesome. And something that, not that it's impossible, but not likely in the least bit that, the big name NHLers are going to do that. But it's that kind of stuff, that kind of connection that kind of helps me realize again, or remind me just how, at the end of the day, it's a really, really close community. And I love how you always point that out about how hockey players always seem to be, really good with that kind of community outreach or just being a part of the fans. And it's really cool how that all comes into play.
For sure. Well, what about also the Hughes brothers behind you? Were they pretty happy with how that art turned out?
Yeah, that was pretty insane, pretty awesome. It was kind of funny because I was told that Quinn Hughes was asking or saying, a couple months after even the fact that he was like, still talking about that drawing and how good it was. Awesome. And I was just like wow, like again, I'd never imagined that kind of a thing would happen, but I just love things like that. Being able to think that even though they're, so there's some really big NHL players, and it's like in the back of their mind, there might still be the idea that or the memory that I've drawn them. And it's something like that. That's awesome. And again, when it's comes to you and Fleury and how big of an influence he's had in your life and how much you look collecting his stuff, again, that's just so awesome that he's been able to reach out to you. And I think that again is just showing how great they are with the community and how even no matter how, because Fleury is, one of the most popular players in the NHL. And no matter how popular the player is, there's still a chance that they're going to reach out to you. And I think being able to contact his agent is again something that's so cool that I don't know how that is for other sports, but that in the NHL that sometimes agents will do that kind of a thing where they will talk to the player. And I was so like when I saw that video on your story, like I was so happy for you.
Thanks. That was an amazing experience, man. Super nice of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
But again, I mean, it was kind of interesting. And I called my dad afterwards, and he was super excited. But I said, part of me though is not most of me. I don't know if you're the same way, because you've met some of these, people who have retired and also guys that are playing in the league now. Especially with the hockey players. I mean, Marc-Andre is just like us. I mean, he's doing his job. He just happens to be watched by, like, his job is entertainment. So people are going to see him and hear about him and know about him way more than the teacher in the classroom or the person who's going to be, who knows where you're going to be with your career. It could be a lot of different things, or even somebody in class working hard. Like, we're not getting that exposure. Although you could argue that we're just as important as the athletes. Sure, they make more money than us, but we're all a part of it, and so I try to humanize it and, like, okay, well, he's much more busy than I am. He's in the public eye, but he's just a human being like we are. And I think that's another reason why, in hockey players in general, especially him being one of the most well-known goaltenders, best of all time, one of the best of all time, to take the time to do stuff like that. I know I'm not the first one, not even close. And that means a lot to me. And so I think it's easy for me to gravitate towards a guy like that. And I'm sure for you, I know Nedeljkovic is one of the nicest guys too. I do hope that you're able to have the chance to do an art piece again and maybe send it to him and have him sign it and send it back. Because I feel like from the times I've watched him in his interviews for Carolina and now in Detroit, he just seems like a really down-to-earth and chill guy. So that would be something that I would hope would happen someday for you. Or, do one of Caden when he plays in the NHL. Hopefully it comes someday. Caden Fulcher, I know that he seems like a pretty chill dude as well. So
yeah, it's just kind of funny you mentioned that, because a couple of years ago I did get one in Nedeljkovic.
There it is. So, nice.
Yeah.
That's
but
awesome.
yeah, again, I think that point that you made about players just being everyday people too. It's sometimes it's easy to see them on the TV making big plays, and
right.
Especially with media and all that kind of stuff, just makes them seem like superheroes. But in general, they're just as normal people as everyone else, and it is something to stop and think about. And again, like, I have a huge respect for teachers, again,
Thanks.
just for the influence that they have on pretty much future generations. And it is easy to, focus so much on, the athletes and everything. But yeah, I mean, everyone's just as important as everyone else. And I think that's definitely it can be challenging for me, especially drawing them and focus so much on all their NHL or their big name player. But yeah, they're just after they are done with the game, they just go home and they're another person.
Yes, absolutely. Yep, very important to remember that too. And so, but I'm glad we've had the opportunity to interact with some of these people. I know that there's someone, I'm only mentioning this because I want people to go look this person up, but I've been thinking a lot about the Leland Irving piece idea, and you remember that he liked that comment that I made. I think it would be so cool to collaborate with you. I found the perfect picture at some point. I know he's like he's way off base of most of the guys that you've drawn, because most of the guys you've drawn are, retired and people know them, or lesser known prospects or guys that are still playing. I mean, he's a guy that his story is really unbelievable what he's overcome, and to continue playing now while having a family of, a wife and 3 kids, and they've all moved overseas to allow him to play. But he would be really fun to collaborate with you with, and get a piece to send to him, and then or a piece to have signed, and then a print for him. I know he's interacted with me and messaged me, and he really enjoys seeing those things posted and talked about, because he didn't get to play very long. But anyways, we'll have to talk about that. That would be fun down the road. I know that we're waiting for the perfect Fleury picture to come up. I found a couple, and I'm just like, is that the one? Like that one I sent you the other day. I'm like, that's pretty good, because I want the mask. Obviously the straight on shot is great because you've got the whole beast on there, the Andy Moog style Curtis Joseph open mouth. But I really like the side, because like over here there's a W and it's got that glittery finish to it, but there's also little flowers within the mask, like subtly painted in there.
Yeah, I haven't even paid attention to that yet.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm like, gosh, that would be tough for Brendan to have to replicate glitter on a mask, but
I've been I've been looking forward to doing that. That W with how shiny it is. Like I've
Mm-hmm.
been every now and again I'll look at it and I'll just be like, that's gonna be fun to do. So
Well, I'll make you this deal. If they win in the first round, I will for sure have one picked out. If not, it'll take me a week or so to probably get over it. But then, we'll either way. I'm really happy with his time there, and I'm excited to see what you do with that, because it's definitely going to be a new challenge, but also going to look really good. So. Cool. Well, I guess signing off, Brendan, I have one more question for you, and that is, how are you feeling about the Red Wings? Like, obviously, that's your team. We've spent some time talking about it. Collecting their young guns is going to be fun, because both of those big name rookies are coming out next series, hopefully. But are you feeling good about the direction that they're going as a young team?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's pretty easy to look at the season and say, the first half they were a borderline playoff team, not quite, but pretty close to it. Not in the Atlantic Division at least, but they were looking pretty good. And then you have the second half, and it seemed like every game was just a blowout. And when it wasn't, it was them getting shut out. Especially look at the Toronto 10-7 game, or the Arizona like 8-2, or the many Montreal games where it was like 5-1 or whatever. It's easy to look at that and just get discouraged, but I think in general, it's definitely something that I'd say is a positive. The season was more positive than negative, just because, of course, we see the biggest rookies that we've had in our system for a few years. They played, I would say, way beyond expectations. And then, of course, just like Nedeljkovic is easy to see, he had a 900 save percentage, something like that, like a pretty high goals against average. But if you look at him before the All-Star break, he was, in my opinion, a top 15, top 10 goalie in the league when you compare, or when you look at the defense in front of him.
Right.
And then it wasn't just him. It was just the whole team lost all confidence in the second half, especially after the All-Star break, and that's when everything kind of started to fall apart. So I have full confidence of him, and then especially with Sebastian Psa and coming in probably a few years, going to be Nedeljkovic and Psa. That'll be fun, and Simon Edvinsson and Moritz Seider in the first line. I could go on about this, but pretty positive is my outlook. So
good. Well, I mean, we're looking at young teams. You want to have players to get excited about, and like you look at the Sabres, and this is no slight against them, but I really don't, other than I get excited about Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. I really think he's a really phenomenal goaltender. I think he's going to be great. But you look at the Red Wings, I feel like there's a lot more hobby excitement for them. So that tends to coincide with them having a lot of potential. So I really, the Red Wings and Penguins matchups are always great. And I would love for two things to happen next year. Marc-Andre Fleury, regardless if he wins a cup this year or not, to go and sign with Pittsburgh for what he will say. If he's like, okay, I signed a 2-year contract. When this contract's over, I'm retiring. And play with Crosby and Malkin again, but then have the Red Wings be good enough that they play each other in the playoffs again. Because that would just, to have them have that rivalry again, and have Fleury still be on the Penguins, that would really be, it would be fun to see for sure.
Yeah,
so
and not have. Oh, sorry, I was just saying, not have a 11-2 game.
I don't even. I forgot about it. I mean, I like the Penguins, but I like to support the team that Fleury's on more than the Penguins right now. I just he should be on that team right now. Obviously, with the goalie injuries, he'd be playing every game. But what I shoulda, coulda, woulda. So I try not to get too caught up in that. But anyways, cool. Well, I hope that they have a great year. I'm obviously excited to see you get those young guns. I've been thinking about that since I know that those guys started performing well this year. I'm like, oh yeah, they're going to be in Series 2 for sure. If not extended, maybe they put one in either one. So I could see them doing that just to extend the life of the products. But cool, Brendan. Well, hey, really appreciate you coming on here. Glad we got to hang out with Brad too. And I hope you have yourself a great, I know school's, you got to be close to being done, right?
Yep. Yeah. Last Monday was my last final, but I'm doing a spring class, so it's like right back. Tomorrow is my first. It's just an online, but so it's like right back at it, and that goes until the end of July. So it's pretty much back at school again. But it's
just one class, though, right?
Yeah.
So
We won't get in the way of drawing at all. So
good. Well, anyways, if anybody would like to check out your work, where are some different places they can see that and interact with you?
Yeah, so I have I think just at this point, just my Instagram, which is I really focus on, which is right there, is my BS sketches or B sketches, however way you want to say it. And then I also have a Twitter, the same name. So Twitter one, I pretty much just post, sometimes like a week or two after. I'm a little delayed on that one. I don't go on there too often, but I try to do a weekly post on Instagram, and I feel like it's a good way to stay involved with the community, with the again, with all the friends I built up on here, and It's just a fun way to stay in touch with hockey.
Well, thanks again for everything that you've done to contribute to the community, and I hope that more and more people continue to reach out to get pieces of art to put on their wall to show off, man, because I sure love these, and I can't wait for more people to see them. So thanks again for everything, man, and good luck with your spring class, and look forward to chatting with you soon about a Minnesota piece. It's going to be fun.
Absolutely, yeah. Thanks so much for having me on here. I've been really looking forward to it. So,
good.
Look forward to continue talking hockey with you, talking life with you, and thanks again so much for all you've done to help me out so far.
Yeah, you're welcome. Absolutely, and thank you for everybody that listened to this episode. Next week, I am aspiring to get a very popular breaker on YouTube on here either next week or the week after. So I'm not even going to say who it is, because then if it doesn't happen, I'm going to be bummed. But I'm really looking forward to trying to get somebody that is prevalent in the card breaking, box breaking community on to talk about why that's such an enjoyable experience. And it's somebody who really cares more about the cards and has, like, even if he gets completely hosed on the price of the box and there's no good cards, he gets excited about the players that are coming out of it, not the cards that are coming out of it. So hopefully that can make that happen. That'd be fun to listen to. So thank you again, Brendan, and everyone for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one. See ya.
Yeah, thank you.